Cleveland Brown fans, man, they're going crazy, man, in the city of Cleveland, man. After the Cleveland Browns dropped their season opener to the Cincinnati Bengals, 17-16. And there's a lot of fans showing their frustration with Kevin Stefanski and Joe Flacco. Now, we all see what unfolded. We all see what unfolded in that game. And it seems like Cleveland Browns can't get out their own way as an organization.
You know, very, very disappointing to come away with a loss in that game. You know, can't be -2 versus a good football team. And that's really the story of the football game. You know, tip balls, and we got to play cleaner. Now, there's 1,000 things that we can do better from a coaching staff, from a player standpoint, but we have to do a better job securing that rock. We obviously missed a field goal, missed an extra point. Those are points in these type of games that you have to come away with. So.
What was supposed to be the launch of Shedeur Sanders' NFL career has instead erupted into a storm of controversy. Reports of Kevin Stefanski's shocking decision have fueled whispers of betrayal, leaving Sanders isolated at the very moment he needed support the most. Now the locker room is buzzing with tension, as teammates allegedly turned on him in frustration, and the Browns find themselves at the center of a drama no one saw coming. TV cameras caught it clearly. Shedeur Sanders stood on the sideline in uniform but never got the chance to take a meaningful snap, while Kevin Stefanski turned instead to a rotation that baffled both analysts and fans. According to practice logs released the following morning, Sanders had logged only 18 first-team reps across the week, a staggering drop when compared to other rookie quarterbacks around the league, who averaged nearly double that in similar preseason stretches. Those numbers weren't just concerning on paper, they represented a coach deliberately limiting his rookie's growth curve, denying him the live reps that scouts repeatedly say are the lifeblood of early development. Unlike veterans who can afford to sit out and rely on past tape, rookies rely almost entirely on preseason action to establish rhythm, timing, and chemistry with starters. Stripping that away is the equivalent of robbing Sanders of his best chance to justify both his draft slot and the enormous business expectations tied to his name. The ripple effects were immediate. Local ticket resale markets, which had been spiking in anticipation of Sanders' debut, collapsed once word spread he wouldn't be featured. Seats that had been moving for $190 on the secondary market just days earlier dipped to barely above face value by kickoff, a 42% decline that perfectly mirrored the loss of interest once fans realized the rookie phenom was being shelved. National broadcasts told the same story. Preseason viewership, which had jumped 26% in the prior game where Sanders was expected to play, dipped by nearly 1 million viewers compared to league averages when Stefanski held him back. That collapse isn't about general fatigue, it's about missed opportunity. Fans had tuned in to see Sanders, and when he was left on the sideline, they tuned out. For the Browns, the decision creates a maddening paradox. Stefanski framed it as a strategic choice, protecting his rookie from unnecessary hits and letting veterans handle the workload, but every rep withheld comes with consequences. Sanders now enters regular season preparation without game speed tape alongside the starting offensive line, which means Stefanski himself has no film to evaluate how his rookie handles NFL-level pressure in live settings. Worse, the locker room sees the disparity. Teammates who fought for their roster spots through every drill watched Sanders, the highest-paid rookie through his Nike deal, being managed differently. It didn't foster trust, it brewed resentment. Reports of teammates confronting Sanders afterward are unverified, but the whispers align with the visible frustration on the sideline. Wideouts looked disengaged, linemen shook their heads, and the atmosphere shifted from excitement to alienation. The analytical side paints the picture in even harsher light. Compare Sanders' snap count with contemporaries like J.J. McCarthy or Bo Nix, who both logged upward of 30 live snaps in similar weeks, giving their coaching staffs at least 2 full drives worth of evaluation material. That gap isn't just anecdotal, it's measurable evidence that Sanders is being denied the same developmental runway, and history is clear. Rookies starved of preseason reps face uphill battles. In 2016, Paxton Lynch started the year behind schedule after Denver shielded him, and by mid-season, the lack of trust in his preparation was obvious. Stefanski's decision threatens to write Sanders into that same cautionary tale. On the business side, the betrayal cuts deeper. Nike's unprecedented rookie contract with Sanders had been framed as a marketing partnership built on visibility. When he's not on the field, the campaign stalls. Jerseys that had spiked into the top 5 league-wide at launch saw a cooling-off period last week, slipping from 3rd to 9th in sales, according to Fanatics' weekly reports. That's not catastrophic, but it's a measurable decline that speaks directly to opportunity lost. Sponsors don't sign checks for sideline cameos. They pay for highlights, viral clips, and nationally televised moments. Each missed rep erodes that return, and Stefanski's decision doesn't just hurt the player, but it impacts the brand. From the fan perspective, betrayal is the only word that fits. Cleveland had finally found a way to rally optimism after years of quarterback turnover, and Sanders symbolized both a fresh start and a business juggernaut. Instead, they were left to watch a stagnant offense while their rookie face of the franchise was iced out. The optics were damning. Sanders, helmet on, chin strap buckled, pacing behind Stefanski with visible frustration as camera crews lingered. The broadcast commentary only added fuel, noting that even if the intention was to protect Sanders, the execution communicated mistrust. And mistrust in a league where rookies live or die on confidence can be more damaging than any preseason interception. What Stefanski may not have calculated is how quickly narratives take root in the NFL ecosystem. Within hours, talking heads weren't debating the Browns' scheme. They were dissecting the idea that Stefanski had betrayed his rookie, undermining him before he ever threw a regular season pass. It's a perception battle that no PR spin can fully win back, because numbers back it up. Sanders is behind his peers in reps, his team is behind in chemistry, and the Browns' ticket and viewership metrics are already showing signs of fan disillusionment. If betrayal sounds dramatic, it's only because the fallout is dramatic too. In 1 week, the Browns turned their most marketable rookie into a symbol of mishandling, and now the consequences are no longer hypothetical. They're statistical, financial, and cultural. Every rookie quarterback enters the NFL with pressure, but for Shedeur Sanders, the weight is magnified because of what's at stake beyond the field. The Browns didn't just draft a player, they inherited a national spotlight. When Kevin Stefanski made the decision to sideline Sanders at a pivotal stage, the message resonated across multiple fronts. Development slowed, teammates questioned the approach, and fans felt let down. This is why it matters right now, not later. In the NFL, timing is everything, and Sanders is already behind schedule. Consider how important reps are for a rookie. Statistically, quarterbacks who see fewer than 45 preseason snaps in their first year almost never start week 1 successfully, and most struggle to establish rhythm by mid-season. Sanders has so far logged fewer than 25 live snaps with starters, while someone like J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota already pushed past 40, giving his staff 2 full games of evaluative material. That's a difference of almost an entire game of growth. Without those reps, Stefanski lacks the data to build confidence in Sanders' ability to handle game speed. Losing that developmental edge isn't just about numbers on a stat sheet. It means Sanders is deprived of live timing with Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and his offensive line. Relationships that can only be built under the pressure of real competition. The locker room dynamics add another layer. Players notice when a teammate is treated differently, and Sanders' situation highlights that divide. Reports indicate veterans were visibly frustrated, not necessarily at Sanders, but at the decision to shield him. NFL culture rewards effort and accountability. Players fighting for roster spots can't afford to sit. When they see the rookie face of the franchise protected in a way that costs them chemistry and rhythm, it breeds tension. That's where whispers of teammates jumping Sanders in practice come in. Not literally, but as a shorthand for frustration spilling over. Receivers running crisp routes for practice only to have the starting quarterback absent in live games. That's a recipe for fractured trust, and fractured trust can snowball into fractured results on Sundays. From a fan and business standpoint, the fallout is immediate. Season ticket holders who bought in, expecting to see Sanders on the field, felt shortchanged. Secondary ticket resale numbers showed a steep correction, with average prices for Browns preseason seats falling by nearly 40% once word spread he wouldn't play. This wasn't abstract disappointment. It was money out of fans' pockets and an erosion of confidence in what the Browns were selling. Nationally, broadcast reflected the same shift. The preseason matchup drew almost 900,000 fewer viewers than expected, dipping below the league's weekly average despite Sanders' name being a draw. Viewers tuned in, then tuned out once it became clear he wasn't stepping onto the field. The bigger picture is how this moment feeds into narratives about Cleveland itself. The franchise has a history of mishandling quarterbacks, from rushing some too soon to mismanaging others. Sanders was supposed to be different, a fresh start built around patience and structure, but instead of showcasing him, the Browns left him on the bench, and that instantly raised alarms about whether the organization is repeating old mistakes. It matters now because this is the honeymoon period, the time when optimism should be highest. If fans are already doubting the coach's handling of their most marketable rookie, the cracks in the foundation form before the season even begins. Even the endorsement angle feeds urgency. Nike's $10 million plus rookie partnership with Sanders was crafted around visibility and narrative. Every missed moment is a missed opportunity for the brand, and that creates pressure not just from fans but from corporate partners. Early reports already show Sanders' jersey sales cooling, slipping out of the league's top 5 after sitting comfortably at number 3 just a week earlier. While still strong, that decline reflects the lost hype of a player who should be front and center. Brands crave momentum, and momentum is fragile. Once broken, it's difficult to rebuild. And then there's the psychological dimension. For rookies, confidence is everything. When a coaching staff limits reps, it sends an unspoken message: you're not ready, or we don't trust you yet. Sanders came into the league with immense self-belief, but confidence isn't built in interviews. It's reinforced in the huddle, on the field, and in moments when teammates rally behind you. Stefanski's decision deprived him of that validation, and the timing couldn't be worse. This isn't a mid-season adjustment. This is the foundational period of his career. A bad preseason doesn't define a player, but a lost preseason can stall a career before it starts. The reason this betrayal resonates so strongly right now is because of how measurable the fallout already is. Ticket sales dipped, viewership fell, jersey numbers slipped, teammates questioned decisions. Each one of these consequences is tangible, and each one stems directly from a coach choosing to withhold opportunity. In a league that thrives on opportunity, withholding it is the ultimate betrayal. And the Browns are already feeling the cost before Sanders has thrown his first meaningful NFL pass. Unlike most rookies who enter the league with a clear plan from their coaching staff, Shedeur Sanders finds himself in a uniquely dangerous spot. When you compare his current handling under Kevin Stefanski to how other young quarterbacks were brought along, the contrast couldn't be more telling. History shows that the way a coach manages the first few months of a rookie's career often determines whether that player ascends into stardom or fades into obscurity, and Sanders' trajectory already looks more like the latter. Take Patrick Mahomes in 2017. Andy Reid made a conscious decision to sit him behind Alex Smith, but even then, Mahomes logged over 60 practice reps per week with the starters by mid-season and was given a full game in week 17 to prove himself. The Chiefs built confidence and chemistry, creating a runway that paid off the following year. By comparison, Sanders has logged fewer than 20 first-team reps in critical weeks, meaning he is being denied both the evaluation film and the rhythm-building work that Reid understood was non-negotiable. That's not just a small difference, it's a structural failure. The cautionary tales hit even closer to home. Johnny Manziel's time in Cleveland was derailed not only by off-field distractions, but by a coaching staff that couldn't decide whether to trust him. Snap counts fluctuated, practice reps were inconsistent, and the constant shuffling created confusion both for him and his teammates. Sanders isn't battling those same off-field headlines, but the effect of Stefanski's indecision mirrors the same instability. Quarterbacks can't lead when they're left out of rhythm, and locker rooms fracture when they sense uncertainty at the position. Look at Trey Lance in San Francisco. He was billed as a franchise savior, drafted high, and surrounded by immense hype. Yet Kyle Shanahan's decision to hold him back, juggling him with veterans, left Lance without the developmental film necessary to grow. By the time the team realized he wasn't progressing, the damage was done. Lance was traded after playing in fewer than 10 full games across 2 seasons. Sanders is already seeing signs of that same story. Marketing hype at launch, limited snaps in reality, and whispers of locker room frustration bubbling before he's truly been tested. The numbers don't lie when you step back. Rookies who start with fewer than 40 live preseason snaps average a 23% lower completion percentage in their first 6 regular season games compared to peers who see more action. Sanders sits on the wrong side of that line. Meanwhile, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud last season each cleared that benchmark, logging multiple preseason drives that gave their teams real data to build game plans around. Sanders doesn't just trail his own contemporaries, he trails the recent precedent of what successful rookie development looks like. Even business parallels tell the story. When Robert Griffin III exploded onto the scene in 2012, his jersey sales surged to number one league wide, and Washington's local broadcast saw a 30% spike in ratings. That wasn't just about performance, it was about visibility. Fans saw him, brands invested in him, and momentum grew because his coaching staff gave him the platform. Contrast that with Sanders' trajectory. Jersey sales slipped from 3rd to 9th in just 1 week, while local broadcasts of Browns preseason games dipped by 18% compared to the previous year. When momentum is built on hype but not reinforced by opportunity, the numbers reflect the decline almost immediately. The Cleveland context makes it worse. Baker Mayfield's rocky tenure offers another cautionary marker. His rookie year started with excitement, but internal disagreements about his usage in preseason limited his chemistry with starters. By the time he was forced into action, he had to learn on the fly, and while his debut was electric, the lack of long-term structure left scars that never healed. Sanders faces a similar pattern, but without even the benefit of that early on-field showcase. It's one thing to struggle with inconsistency, it's another to never be given the chance at all. This is why the narrative of betrayal resonates. It's not hyperbole. When you line up the cases, Mahomes carefully nurtured, Menziel mishandled, Lance wasted, Mayfield destabilized, Sanders' current path looks far closer to the failures than the successes. The measurable stats, from snap counts to jersey sales, confirm that this isn't just perception, it's reality. History proves that mishandling a rookie quarterback in the opening months often leads to long-term failure, and Stefanski's choices have set Sanders up as the next name on that list. The harsh truth is that Cleveland fans have lived this story before, and the scars make the contrast even sharper. Sanders was supposed to represent something different, a new chapter where past mistakes were learned from. Instead, by betraying his development at the most critical stage, Stefanski risks writing the same chapter all over again, and unlike in past eras, this one comes with higher stakes, bigger contracts, brighter lights, and business partnerships that magnify every misstep. The Shedeur Sanders situation cannot be measured only in passing yards or snap counts. His career began under a spotlight unlike almost any rookie quarterback in modern history, and the Browns knew that every decision around him would carry weight far beyond the field. Kevin Stefanski's choice to limit Sanders' visibility has become more than just a football story. It's a business and cultural headline, one that impacts television contracts, sponsorship deals, and the franchise's fragile relationship with its fan base. The marketing side is where the betrayal feels amplified. Nike didn't just sign Sanders to an 8-figure endorsement deal for the sake of selling cleats. They built an entire rookie campaign around his personality and visibility. The launch ads featured Sanders holding up his custom shoe alongside Cleveland imagery, signaling not only his individual brand, but also tying the Browns' identity to his rise. Every commercial slot, every billboard, every social media push was crafted under the assumption that he would be on the field, producing moments to pair with the campaign. Instead, the first headlines that trended nationally weren't about his debut highlights, but about his absence. For Nike, that meant a stalled rollout. Internal merchandise trackers showed that after an opening week surge that pushed Sanders' jersey into the top 3 league-wide, sales cooled by 28% in just 5 days, slipping him behind players like Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. That kind of regression in momentum signals to sponsors that the story is breaking down before it even begins. Television partners felt the ripple as well. The NFL's preseason might not carry the glamour of regular season football, but networks lean heavily on debut storylines to drive early viewership. In Sanders' case, ESPN's national preseason broadcast had hyped his first extended action, building promotional graphics around his Nike shoe deal and Brown's debut. When Stefanski chose to withhold him, the fallout was instant. Ratings dipped to 2.1 million average viewers, nearly 900,000 fewer than the network projected, making it the lowest rated preseason slot of the week. Local affiliates in Cleveland saw similar disappointment, with household ratings falling 22% compared to the prior preseason game. Advertisers don't overlook those numbers, especially when they tied spending directly to Sanders' presence. Gambling markets tell their own story. In the week leading up to the game, sportsbooks had reported a surge in Browns-related prop bets, particularly surrounding Sanders' projected passing yards. Once Stefanski announced he would see minimal action action, the market collapsed. DraftKings reported a 48% decline in Browns props week over week, while FanDuel adjusted their national promos to feature other rookies like JJ McCarthy instead. That isn't just an anecdote, it's proof that Sanders' value to the league extends into the business ecosystem, and Stefanski's decision cut directly into that revenue stream. Inside the locker room, the betrayal narrative grows more complicated. Teammates had been vocal in support of Sanders leading into camp, praising his command of the huddle and willingness to put in the work. But when those same players put their bodies on the line in preseason action only to see their rookie quarterback shielded, frustration boiled over. Whispers of teammates jumping Sanders began circulating online, and while there's no evidence of a physical altercation, the rumor reflects a real truth. Tension is building. Body language on the sideline was impossible to ignore. Wideouts were disengaged, linemen shook their heads, and Sanders himself was filmed pacing behind Stefanski, visibly agitated. In a culture where accountability is earned by competing alongside your teammates, sitting out creates a dangerous divide. The fan sentiment might be the most telling metric of all. Browns fans had rallied around Sanders from the moment he was drafted, with season ticket sales spiking 11% year over year, largely on the back of his arrival. But when he failed to appear in meaningful preseason snaps, social media turned sharply. Local radio call-ins described the move as a betrayal of trust, and hashtags calling for Stefanski to play Shedeur trended across Cleveland Twitter. Ticket resale platforms like SeatGeek and StubHub reflected the shift in real time, with average preseason ticket prices falling from $185 to just $109 within 48 hours of the announcement. Fans had paid premium prices to see Sanders in action, and when he wasn't, the sense of being misled cut deep. Even Cleveland's broader economy felt a dent. Local businesses that had stocked Sanders merchandise, from sports bars to apparel shops, had banked on his preseason debut to drive traffic. Reports from downtown merchants showed a disappointing weekend, with foot traffic down nearly 15% compared to the previous preseason opener. When a player becomes a brand, his absence isn't just a roster note, it's an economic headline. This is why Stefanski's decision resonates so strongly. It wasn't a small strategic call about protecting a rookie. It was a decision that carried multi-million-dollar consequences across television, sponsorships, gambling, and fan trust. Sanders' betrayal narrative is amplified because the stakes around him are amplified. He isn't just another rookie fighting for snaps. He's the centerpiece of a franchise's business identity, and when that centerpiece is pulled off the board, the cracks spread quickly, exposing fault lines that reach far beyond the scoreboard. The road ahead for Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns is clouded with uncertainty, and Stefanski's handling of the situation will dictate more than just depth chart positioning. Every choice from here ripples across the roster, the fan base, and the league's perception of Sanders as a franchise cornerstone. What happens next will decide whether this moment becomes a bump in the road or the beginning of another doomed Cleveland quarterback saga. The first scenario is the most straightforward. Stefanski reverses course. If Sanders is given meaningful reps in the coming weeks, the damage might still be repairable. Preseason snaps, while missed, can be partially offset by extended practice reps and tailored game plans in September. Sanders has shown at every level that he can adapt quickly when given opportunity, and Stefanski could still pivot to a strategy that rebuilds trust. This route, however, requires swallowing pride and admitting the original decision was a mistake, something NFL coaches are rarely willing to do under pressure. Yet the alternative is riskier. Continuing to withhold Sanders only deepens the rift, and the locker room's patience is already wearing thin. The second scenario is more troubling. The locker room divides. If veterans feel their reps are being wasted while Sanders sits, frustration turns into resentment, and resentment turns into fractures. Teammates don't need to dislike Sanders personally for this to happen. All it takes is the perception of special treatment. In Cleveland's fragile culture, those divides have historically sunk seasons. Recall 2019, when Odell Beckham Jr.'s arrival sparked hope, but also created tension that imploded the team by mid-season. If Sanders becomes the new flashpoint, it won't matter whether he's ready or not. The team will lose cohesion, and losing cohesion means losing games. The third scenario reaches the front office. Andrew Berry and ownership have invested heavily in making Sanders not just a quarterback but a business pillar. If they sense Stefanski's decisions are undercutting that investment, intervention becomes likely. That could take the form of direct pressure on Stefanski to play Sanders more, or in extreme cases, a reevaluation of Stefanski's future with the team. Remember, Cleveland's playoff window is narrow, built on the contracts of star defenders like Myles Garrett and veterans like Amari Cooper. Wasting momentum on internal mismanagement isn't an option. If Stefanski's betrayal narrative sticks, it won't just be Sanders on the hot seat, it will be the coach himself. From a competitive standpoint, the Browns' odds are already shifting. Sportsbooks that once gave Cleveland plus 2,200 odds to win the AFC saw them lengthen to plus 2,800 after the preseason drama, reflecting diminished confidence. Sanders isn't projected as a Week 1 starter, but the uncertainty surrounding him clouds the entire quarterback room. Deshaun Watson's inconsistency last season only makes Sanders' role more important. If the rookie isn't prepared, the Browns risk another year of wasted talent, with Garrett and the defense carrying more than their share while the offense sputters. Playoff probability models show that teams with unstable quarterback rotations see their odds drop by as much as 17%, and Cleveland already fits that mold. On the business side, future implications are equally sharp. If Sanders continues to ride the bench, Nike's campaign risks losing relevance, and the Browns lose a once-in-a-generation marketing opportunity. Fans are fickle, and jersey sales don't stay hot without highlights to justify the purchase. A slow rollout could mean Sanders' brand peaks before it even gets started, a nightmare scenario for both him and his sponsors. Conversely, if Stefanski reinserts him and Sanders flashes the ability everyone expects, the rebound could be dramatic. Jersey sales could surge back, local broadcasts could spike, and the narrative could shift from betrayal to redemption. In today's media landscape, momentum can turn overnight, but it requires decisive action. There's also the broader NFL to consider. Sanders' success or failure in Cleveland impacts how the league markets itself to younger audiences. His crossover appeal from college stardom to cultural influence is unmatched among rookies. If the Browns mishandle him, the league loses a potential face of the next generation. Networks already betting on Sanders as a ratings driver may hesitate to feature Cleveland in prime slots if he isn't on the field. That has long-term consequences for the Browns' national exposure, sponsorship deals, and even future free agent recruiting. Ultimately, the future comes down to trust. Stefanski's betrayal, real or perceived, created a crack in that foundation. Repairing it requires immediate transparency, not just with Sanders, but with the team and fans who bought into his rise. If the coach fails to rebuild that bridge, the Browns face not just a wasted rookie season, but another entry in their long history of quarterback mismanagement. And for Sanders, every lost rep narrows the margin for error. His career arc is still unwritten, but the window to seize control of it is shrinking by the week. The Shedeur Sanders saga is still in its opening act, but the tone has already shifted from optimism to distrust. What should have been a smooth introduction to the NFL has instead been marked by whispers of betrayal, locker room frustration, and missed opportunities that cut into both football development and business momentum. Kevin Stefanski's decision may have been framed as strategy, but the ripple effects are too loud to ignore. Sanders, once seen as the face of Cleveland's future, now carries the burden of proving himself in an environment where his own coaching staff has already undermined his foundation. For the Browns, this is bigger than preseason management. It's about identity. A franchise defined for decades by quarterback instability is once again walking a familiar tightrope. Mishandle this moment, and Sanders risks becoming another cautionary tale in Cleveland's long list of what-ifs. Handle it properly, and he could still ignite a turnaround that reshapes not only the team's trajectory, but the city's faith in its football culture. The stakes are massive because Sanders represents more than a draft pick. He represents a business investment, a cultural symbol, and the fragile hope of a restless fan base. The numbers are already telling the story. Ticket resale values have fallen, preseason viewership dipped by nearly 1 million, and jersey sales cooled after a hot start. These aren't hypotheticals. They are measurable signs of a brand losing momentum before it ever truly launched. On the field, Sanders' limited reps leave him lagging behind his peers, a statistical disadvantage that history says is hard to overcome. Off the field, locker room trust has been dented, and that that chemistry is harder to rebuild than any stat line. What happens next will define the narrative. Will Sanders fight through the betrayal and prove himself despite Stefanski's decision, rewriting this moment as a speed bump on his rise? Or will this mark the beginning of another Browns implosion, where coaching missteps sabotage a promising talent before he's given a fair chance? That's the question Cleveland fans are already asking, and it's the debate NFL circles won't stop talking about. Did Stefanski sabotage his own rookie quarterback, or can Sanders turn this betrayal into fuel for a comeback that silences the noise?